Well, hello again, everybody. This is Reggie Brock, bringing you our latest and greatest episode of our podcast, Live Exposed. And today I am thrilled to death to have Mark Godaire with me. Don't know Mark that well. We've had one call together, but instantly I was kind of attracted to him and in their organization. And I mean that in a very respectful manner. I saw a lot of things. I heard a lot of things. I wanted to know more. And so, Mark, as you can see, this podcast is not the highest level of production you're going to get. I mean, I look at behind you. You got that great Reeva sign, your gear's all buttoned down, your hat's there, you're all fit. And then you look at me. I got a Thomas Kincaid hide behind me, and I'm talking out of earbuds. I don't know if you realize you were lowering yourself to this standard or not.
Beautiful, brother. The good part is about to come from your voice, so we're good.
Well, thank you so much, and it's an honor and a privilege to have you today. I would just like for us to talk about some things we've talked about before that I think can do one thing more importantly than anything else, and that's cause people to lean forward into their future. It's cause them to really gather themselves and realize there is better out of my life than I'm experiencing right now. And hopefully we can give them some tools and you can share with them some things today that's going to help them do that. But kind of before we get started with that, why don't you take just a minute and talk about kind of who you are, where you've come from, kind of where things are currently today, and where you personally and the company is headed in the future. So kind of start talking to us a little bit about your background.
Absolutely, 100%, man. I come back actually from a college education background. I wanted to teach as a profession, so I graduated Coastal Carolina University in education. I actually taught high school as a 22-year-old for about a year and a half. So 22-year-old teaching 17, 18-year-olds, sometimes 16-year-olds. Yeah. And that was pretty interesting, but that's where I get the passion to teach. That's where I get the passion to influence. We talked before about influence, and I've always had that knack. I've always had that niche to hopefully influence people that are near me. I have recently, over the last, when I say recently, maybe 10 to 15 years, have really had the passion, which I see out of you, to influence people in a positive manner and to avoid some of the mistakes that I've made. I call them crumbs, from Matthew McConaughey. And about 15 years ago, and I've kept it in my life, crumbs, like decisions I made that affect me in the future, right? So I've tried to limit those, and that's my passion, man. I try to educate. Yeah. That's Reeva Impact's passion. Reeva Impact's passion is trying to get other companies to avoid all the mistakes we made over at Monarch Roofing. Right now, everyone sees Monarch Roofing as this $50-60 million conglomerate, but I was there when I saw all the mistakes and the errors we were making at the beginning stages, and that's one of my big passions as well, is try to get companies to avoid those.
So what's the big deal about influence today? I mean, when you hear influence, because we hear it all the time, and both of you and I know some guys in our space that are really, really influential. But what frightens me a little bit is that we've over-focused on getting eyeballs on us and not really focused on when those eyeballs are put on us, how can we impact them in a positive manner? How have you balanced that?
That's a great question. And influence, like you said, has been thrown around a lot, right? Influence, I think it starts becoming a negative. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be an influencer because, you think automatically now social medias came around. I think 15, 20 years ago, I don't know if you probably heard influencer, it was a positive remark, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a judged position. People would start judging that influence, right? Or, man, he's not as influential as people think or whatnot, but I think of it as getting somebody to follow you in a positive manner, right? I think all positive, and I think our industry, by the way, in the last 5 years has had a ton of positive influencers, but persuasion, influence, I just think success leaves clues, and if I could have success and leave clues to others for them to avoid mistakes that I've had or have some success, I think that's where I'm really most passionate about.
So you talk a lot about, helping, coaching, leading, influencing people. I think one of the struggles that maybe you've run into that I know I have is sometimes wanting things more for people than they want for themselves. What do you think are the real ingredients that are required, not suggested, but required to get from this place that I'm at to where I know or should I want to be?
And we've talked about it before, right? We talked about it before, and it's actually something that you could probably help me with, is wanting it. How do I deal with the anxiety of wanting it more than the people that have come to me want it, right? Or how can I let them know that there's no easy button and it takes discipline? And what we try to do, and what I try to do, especially when I'm working very close-handed one-on-one with salesmen or other companies, is I try to create disciplines that they can follow, small little disciplines, small little habits. Habits was my word of the year this year, 2023. I wanted to form more good habits and be their slave. Like, that's my focus right now, is form good habits, become their slave. Not how you feel, just become their slave. Because I got to get better at that, right? And it's always a learning curve. So what I've helped others do is maybe just do it a little incremental. Right, incremental habits. Like, let's form habits, and you're going to miss those habits 1 or 2 days, right? But after 2 days, now you're starting to form other habits, so don't miss more than 2 days, right? There's a simple rule there. But habits and disciplines. Forget the motivation. I've made many mistakes. I've really pushed motivation years ago. Want to be motivated. I love the motivational videos, but what that is just a spark, right? It's a little spark plug to get it going, and then that discipline should take over. So I'm really passionate about discipline over the last 5 to 7 years, and it's worked wonders for me.
Well, and here's where this crowd shrinks to me. When you start talking about discipline, and you start talking about accountability, and you start talking about work, the bulk of the room wants to check out, because, and you said something earlier, and I believe this, I cannot want more out of somebody than they want for themselves, no matter how hard I try. And so I think your strategy of one step at a time is like critical, because, I go into rooms, you go into rooms, and we talk to people, and people are provoked, right? And that's a gifting to me. I think that being able to provoke people to take a look at maybe what part of the engine is not running on full cylinder is a gift. But if you don't take what's been provoked in you, put your hand to the plow and start working to get by it, it's just been like a candy or sugar rush. I mean, it's like I walk in and people are like, oh my God, that was so good. And I'm like, well, what you going to do about it? What is it? What provoking has happened that's caused you to want to start taking these incremental steps? Because most of the things, Mark, I think you would agree with me, that are deeply embedded in people that are really, really hard for them to overcome has taken years to get to that point. I mean, there's deep root systems in people. And sometimes people want to change the fruit. The fact of the matter is, until the root is dealt with, fruit stays the same. I know you believe that and you practice that, but have you found that to be the case with folks?
Yeah, and it's through error. And man, I wish I always knew that my whole life, right?
I know.
And I wish I knew that, the things that you do are always going to come back to you no matter what. And I think we mentioned it earlier, Reggie. I think, and I've been victim to this as well, is that we always seem to want to change when a tragic event happens or something catastrophic happens, when I really think that we need to look back and, man, I wish I was better at this. I really was. I really do. I wish gratitude can take over for others. Like, we all, no matter what, everyone watching this, there's always something to be grateful for. And, that's another word that's out there, but it just seems to be grazed over and not really. I focus on gratitude. Yeah. And that, usually helps me get out of any negative thoughts that I have or any bad behaviors that I start popping into my mind. But yeah, man, you hit it on the head.
Well, one of the things that I want to help people, and I think you guys do the same thing, is I want to redeem your time. Why in the heck would you want to get into a ditch I've already got out of? Like, if I can help you and you can hear me and you can receive what I'm saying, or people can hear you with the mistakes that you've made or that I have made, or the wrong turns that we have all made. And if people can be open and see and to hear from us how not to, why would you not? So a part of what I'm doing, and I know y'all are doing, and you personally in particular, is helping people avoid places we have been so they don't have to experience the heartache and the anguish that I have experienced. And see, to me, that is a powerful opportunity for people to interact with mentors and people who have experience and are willing to share that. So is that kind of what y'all do at Reeva? Talk to me a little bit about your current situation, what you guys are doing here, and what impact it's having on people.
Yeah, we do it in the business side, business roofing side. But, you know, my big passion is personal development. And my big passion is trying to get other salesmen to avoid the mistakes I made as a salesman.
Yeah.
Reggie, I don't know if you know this, in 2018, I sold over $5 million worth of roofs 1 year. It was
Wow.
about $5.4 million worth of roofs. And you would think from a 10,000-foot view that I would probably be the happiest guy in the world. It was the most miserable year of my life. And I had more money. Obviously, the money was obviously there, right, after selling that much.
Yeah.
What I did was I allowed all those crumbs, the decisions I was making daily, build up, and I was only focusing on my job, right? Whereas Jim Rohn, that's why where it keeps hitting me, Jim Rohn, work harder on yourself than your job. I completely forgot about myself. I completely forgot about my relationships. I completely forgot about my core values of knowing that, hey, you're doing this right now, but you know that you're not going to get caught right now. But do you know in a year what's going to happen? So what happened was that year went by. I had $5.4 million. My bank account was full. My heart was empty. I got out of the moving industry. I was gone for that. I had to get out. I told my best friend Martin Pettigrew, after many years of working with him, I said, "Man, I got to get out. I'm taking for my mental health. It's not your fault. It's not your company's fault. It's not Monarch's fault. It's me, man." And it was the hardest thing I ever did. And that's when I came back. And after 7 months of really digesting and really putting on paper all the mistakes I made, I said, you know what, man, I have to go redeem myself. And I want to do it not in the sales way. I did come back to sell just to get back on the pace, but I wanted to come back and impact other people because I know that if it happened to me, it's got to happen to other people.
Yeah, man.
Again, I don't know how, and I'm working on this, and maybe you can help me along the way, is how can I get people to understand that their decisions are going to affect them without having them make the bad decisions?
Yeah. Well, sometimes some opportunities you give people, they'd rather run into a wall, bang their head, and hurt themselves. So they're going to just do that. But there is a select audience out there who have open ears, and I think it's a spiritual issue as well, to where they're trying to tune in to what can I do so that I don't have these ongoing perpetual challenges. Here's what I know. Our personal development has everything to do with our professional advancement. If we grow professionally, there's a symbiotic relationship between our personal growth and our professional advancement. Mark, if you neglect one, the other will suffer. And so what happens is we get in this mode of running hard, trying to develop our professional skills, and we just hit these ceilings and we don't know why. And I have found the why is I have neglected personal growth and development. I've not prioritized it. And if you're listening to this podcast today and you feel like maybe you've tapped out, I mean, like you burnt like you were after, I mean, you sell how in the heck can you sell $5.4 million of roofing and still feel like something's missing? Because it's not 5.4 million you sold that was going to fill what you needed in your life. That's where we've got to help people focus. Your longings and deep inside of you that are not being fulfilled have zero to do with how much you can sell, how well you can perform. It has everything to do with your growth internally. Agreed?
Man, 100%. And that's what I made the mistake of. I thought that if I was going to make a ton of money and I was successful in my career, that it would all work out. And I realized very quickly that everything affects everything else.
Yep.
That even if I was the best salesman, roofing salesman in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina at that time, if I was a shitty, excuse my language, if I was a shitty boyfriend, if I was not going to the gym, if I was eating unhealthy, if I was not spiritually sound, like health, right, mind, body, spirit, it wasn't worth it to me. And I learned that the hard way. All my life as a teacher, right? I grew up as a teacher. You know, teaching, you don't make much money, right? So after that, my whole goal is make money, I'll be happy. Make money, I'll be happy. And I eliminated the 4 other things that is success to me: fatherhood, family, health, and then friendships, right? Yeah. You know how many friends I had that year? Not many.
Right. Well, I think you can have both. You know, I think we can have $5.4 million years and still have leveled, balanced relationships that matter. You do not have to sacrifice one for the other. So I think when you guys come in and start talking to the personal side of people and helping them to prioritize that, business then and the structure of the business and the flow of business becomes more organic. Have you seen that?
100%, man. And
yeah,
it's actually, I came back and, I don't want to, it's nothing to do with posting or anything, but since I came back, we've had at Monarch Roofing alone, and I've been very involved with Monarch Roofing. They're one of our clients, and Reeva's Mark is a client of Reeva. We've had 3 salesmen over $5 million, and I have been able to coach them to be able to also worry about the other critical areas of life, and that has even boosted my passion. Because I said, and you should see me with these guys, man. Last year we had a $6.4 million salesman, and we had a $5.7 million salesman. Every other week I'm going to them, are you okay? Hey, tell me about your family. Hey, tell me about your house. You been to the gym today? And I was just like, Mark, I know, I went through your training. I'm good. I have I have a check sheet. I have all my checks here. I'm really good. And like, that is what is really, it got me, fired up, as you could probably tell.
There's a principle there. You see, whether you learned to celebrate past your 5.4 million. And so I call it the pour factor, P-O-U-R. How can I pour into other people that give them an advantage and create advancement for them without it looking like I need something out of it? And so just hearing you talk about not just the 5 point you sold, but being able to come back fresh and new and different priorities, and then being able to see 3 other guys get to that level had to be beyond exciting.
It's unbelievable, man. It's really what it's really what fired us Reeva, right? Because it 3 years ago, Reeva's not new. A lot of people think it's new. A couple of years now, but Reeva is probably about 4 years old. Ever since I came back, it just was a different name. We were Monarch Brands. It was called. And so Monarch Brands was like, but unfortunately we had to drop the Monarch name because people just used Monarch and what we were doing. I think we were just a roofing company, so we found that we went with Reeva, which is a guiding star. That's how we picked the name. So it's why I'm so fired up, and it's why I'm always learning, because I know I got to get better. And the crazy part is, in Monarch Roofing right now, we have a guy that's on pace for $9 million. System. We have inside sales, outside sales, and it's part of the system we teach at Reeva. It's not, it's not for everybody. Reggie, right up front, right? It's not for everybody. But one thing that I take very near and dear to my heart, part of it is mindset and personal development. I don't make it everything. I think there's so much room for guys like you to come in and join organizations like Reeva as a collab, because there's so much of that, and it's so near and dear to our hearts. But we really need to focus on the roofing business side, right? Martin needs to focus on executive. I need to focus on sales. Sales is so close to personal development. It's so linked, right? It's just disguised.
But you've just experienced it, the whole picture. Having a great roofing system and a program and training and development, but then you come back having experienced some personal loss and learning from it, and then being able to, maybe though you don't have to have the time for it, being able to see how important that piece is to the overall holistic life of that roofing company and the people running it is like incredibly important to be able to deliver. And so to your point, that's where my heart is right now, is how do I find people like Reeva? How do I find people like Martin and Mark who are really maybe, hey, look, man, we can't do everything and be everything to everybody. How do we partner together, collaborate together to be able to pitch this holistic of you to owners and to people that can help them have the same experience that you and now these other 3 guys have? To me, that's the trifecta.
And if you truly cared about the industry, like a lot of influencers out there say, would have no problem collabing. They would have no problem joining people together to make a final outcome, right? That's why, Reeva and, our motto is don't compete, dominate. Like, we're not competing with anybody out there.
Right.
Man, if we can all come together and dominate, and we truly feel that. And I think a lot of influencers out there, a lot of people in our industry also feel that, but I also see on other sides of the spectrum that that I think you're competing a little bit, and it's okay, right? Like it's okay that they are, but I'd rather just join forces. We've joined forces with Adam Sands. We've joined forces with Dimitri many a time. Patrick Carr works with a lot of our clients. So we've joined forces and not worried about competing. We just want to dominate. We want to make sure that people are knowing that everything affects everything.
If you can find alignment, and the alignment speaks to, let's help as many people as we can fill the gaps in their life as much as possible. It takes us from being competitors to being co-laborers.
I love it.
It's that, we labor together for the common cause. How do we find gaps in people's lives? And listen, if you're listening to this podcast today, that's what the importance of this is the message that you need to hear. This is an opportunity for you to become aware and awoken to the fact that there's probably issues in your life that you're not paying any attention to, and bringing folks in to help you manage that and to be accountable to that is critical to your ongoing success. I stood up on a stage at SRC this last year, and I had every coach in the room stand. Like, I mean, this was before I left Beacon, and so I felt a little safer, right? And so I get up and I'm like, all you coaches stand up, and they just reluctantly started standing up. And I'm like, when you understand this that I'm about to share with you, and I want to share with the audience today. Look, there is a word that's called metron. The word metron means your portion, your allotment, your gifting, and your influence. And I was speaking to these guys at the conference like nobody else was there. And I said to them, I'm like, you are uniquely built with specific DNA. And when you start declaring your uniqueness, you will draw the crowd that belongs to you. Think about that. When I open my mouth and I determine this is my calling, my purpose, my DNA, this is the oil that comes out from me that's going to bless other people and enable other people. I stopped thinking about what oil you had and who you attracted, because what you have, I don't have. And as a result, you're going to reach people I don't. Let us together share, spread, open ourselves up so that together we can help influence people and come as co-laborers as opposed to competitors. And when I said that, you would have thought, I had to almost walk up to the audience and help them close their mouths, because they came up to me afterwards like, never thought about that. Right. So we're not looking to create more competitors. We're looking to create some co-laborers that can help other people around. How you like them apples?
And everything will work itself out after that, brother. Everything will work itself after that, whatever it's financially or whatever, the status you're trying to get to. And when you say this is, oh my gosh, it's brilliant. It makes me think of ego, right? And ego, you in order to accept what you just said, you have to put your ego to a side and understand that you're not the one all be all, right? We talk about, John Senek, one of my near and dear friends in the industry, and he has a niche, and he's so good at that niche. I will never have that. I don't attain to have that. We have our niche. So when we join forces, it gives that client, or it gives that business owner so much value, true value. Now, one big thing I do want to kind of mention as you're mentioning this is I do think that the values have to align. And I do want to start the podcast. Reeva Impact, myself and Martin, we don't align with many people out there. It does not mean that we are judging them, does not mean that we don't think that they have value. No. But we just find we need to make sure that we are aligned exactly to be able to give a good product out there, rather than just say, oh, you have 2 million followers, let's work with you. You're a very popular industry, let's work with you. We'd rather work with people that we're aligned with, because we know it works out a lot more in the end.
And I've watched y'all from a distance, but I spent 30 minutes on the phone with you and Martin the other day, and I'm like, these guys we're aligned. And I don't know what that means beyond that. I think, there's some things that I've thought about, but at the end of the day, it's not like we can collaborate together for other people, but y'all have already provided value to me now, knowing you and hearing you, because once you get to know somebody, you listen to them differently. Things that come out of their mouth just have a little bit more meaning to them. And so, dude, I'm excited about good-hearted people doing the right thing together. individually and together, to help really bring nourishment and help to people in their lives, whether it's personally or professionally, so they can become more holistic and live life fully and live their life on purpose. And I know that's what y'all are doing, and I'm so excited.
You hit it on the head, man. I think if you go back to our past clients, that's exactly what they're going to say. And we have fun. Yeah, we can have fun with it too. That's the best part about it. I think we can have fun. We can joke around. We can have a light-sided part of it, but we're really all business when it gets down into the nitty-gritty. But man, we love to have fun with the best of them too.
So I want to ask you before we close down today. I want to ask you about two more things that I think are really, really important. I'm concerned about what I call an identity crisis in our industry, and I think it's far greater than our industry. I think people are struggling today, really accepting their own identity. People really understanding their identity, how their identity is not just established, but how my identity, if it's not what I am really wanting it to be, how do those things change? So to me, there are really two things that are fundamental to identity. The first is really our story, our narrative, that we tell ourselves. Listen, I'm not talking about what other people think about me. I'm not talking about what other people say about me. I'm not talking about what other people feel about me. I'm talking about my identity is established and rooted in the narrative I give myself. That's the first thing. And then the second thing to me is, what standards or commitments am I willing to take hold of and to require of my life? And so if you have no standards to operate off of, if you have no commitments that you have made and are willing to make to you and those important to you, how can you ever expect your identity to be established and you comfortable with it? I don't know that you can.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what do you think causes folks, and if this is too broad of a question, just stop me. Again, we're having fun and getting to know each other. But to me, what do you think is causing this crisis of identity in our society today? And first of all, maybe you don't even agree with that. Do you agree with it? And what do you think are some of the causes?
Yeah, I struggle with it, Reggie. I struggle with it. What's that syndrome that they say when you get very successful, or when you have a lot of success and you have a syndrome that you feel imposter syndrome, right? I think this kind of hits a little bit closer to identity, because, man, I feel it. I feel it sometimes. I feel that I get text messages, I get emails after working with a company and praising me how much I've impacted them and how much I've done for them, and I feel like, man, I struggle with that identity of maybe becoming someone that has a major influence on somebody in the roofing industry, right? And you hit it, man. And self-awareness, maybe social awareness is something that you're talking about. I really, really try to work on. I really try to push others to really focus on self-awareness, true self-awareness, true identity. I think it comes to. And then, social awareness, how other people are feeling. And then I think it all stems from communication skills. But, man, I am constantly trying to work on that myself.
One of the things that I tell people, and I love your comment on this, you cannot have an identity that you hope for until you commit to standards you live in. Let me say that again. You cannot have an identity you hope for if you refuse to live the standards required to be there. And I think there, Mark, lies the rub. We talk about, we think about, we're told how to be, what our identity should look like based upon our gifting and skills, but we just don't commit. We just think randomly we can wake up and all of these people are looking at us thinking, oh, well, what a great person he is, approving us and, wanting to be around us. And the fact of the matter is, until we learn to commit to the requirements of that identity being established, it's a waste of time. Do you find people who lack commitment in the work that you're doing?
Oh my gosh, man. It's one of the biggest problems we have is maybe not lack the commitment, but lack the consistency of the commitment. How they want it short term, like I was talking about earlier. But they lack commitment. They lack the discipline. They lack they almost sometimes lack the spark plug. They lack the motivation to do it. They lack the why. We talked about a little bit earlier about how the why is kind of thrown around a lot. Maybe they lack the why, and or maybe they think that money is the why. External factors, a lot of external factors, thinking the money is the why. Hey, I have no problem with money, right? I have no problem with money. I do have a problem with money if it's not used in a proper way to get me fulfilled. Like I want money just with the best of them, but I want to use the money towards things that fulfill me, right? I want to at some point be able to build orphanages in Mexico, right? Like my mentor Paul Hatter. I want to do these things because that's going to bring me happiness. So yeah, the money's the tool. So money's not a problem. I don't have a problem with that. I understand that people go after it, but it's a tool, just like everything else. And like Adam Sand would say, it takes adoption of all the disciplines, and it takes adoption of all the things in order to make that tool successful, right?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you, kind of as we start wrapping up here, is something I hope for as well. We're calling on people to raise the standard of their life. Personally, professionally, just get better. And so sometimes the just get better does not resonate. And so that's why I encourage people to get in touch with Marks and get in touch with Reevas and get in touch with different people who can help you be accountable and teach you how to raise standard. Listen, what I found out about my life was this: every time I put myself on an island by myself, I lost the ability to resource from anybody beyond what I had myself. And I just run out of juice at times. And so being put into an environment like you guys build, and hopefully some of the things I'm doing with folks, it just gives them additional resource. It gives them an opportunity to go like, you know what? Kind of brings us back to what we were talking about at first. You know, can somebody else speak into my life that can redeem my time and give me the opportunity to do better things than I had hoped for and have accomplished to date? I'm gonna stop now and just to ask you: is there something on your heart in particular as we close this thing off you want to share? If not, it's cool, but I want to give you a minute or two if you want to, just to talk.
No, a few things popped in my head, and it's actually one of your listened to a lot of things that you put out there, by the way. And it actually was one of your things from the SRC Summit. I want to congratulate you because you communicate so well your past experiences and your past failures for me to even feel it internally. I feel it, and it prevents me from not wanting to go not to mess up. Right? It makes me feel like, man, I lived through your failures, I lived through your tragedies, so like I already know that I'm not going to go that way. Like, and that's where I need to get better at. I made a lot of mistakes in my life. I made errors in the roofing industry, and my goal every single day is get 1% better at being able to communicate that to people so they don't have to deal with that. So that's my maybe my little 30-second of fame is hey, listen to people like you. Hopefully listen to people like me that can speak our bad experiences into you so you don't create those same outcomes that I did. So, man, that's all I got to say. But
look, man, I think you're describing the ability to nourish people with the crumbs of your life. You use the word crumbs later. Dude, if I can take chunks of my life at this age in a season of my life and just deposit it into somebody else, knowing that it's going to help them alter and go a different direction to find a higher level of standard, elevate the way that they're living for them and their family and the company they're with, it's all worth it to me. It's all worth it to me. And so what? I mean, I've done some embarrassing things, and I mean, some of that stuff haunts me still. But the fact of the matter, what helps me get past the haunt, if you will, is when I'm able to break my life up and to feed other people with it so that they do just what you just said. Listen, I'm going to close with this. I've been reading a book by Dan Sullivan, and I mean, you know this guy. He's written a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And one of the things that he says in this book is he calls it the 4C formula. And I'm going to leave the podcast with this, guys. So there's 4 things that he talks about elevating and committing to specific standards that help your identity become stronger and more committed. He calls them this. He says, number 1, it's commitment. You see, if you lack commitment, you're going to lack ambition enough to drive where you're supposed to or need to be. The second thing he says is you've got to have courage. You have got to summons up enough courage to take action. The third thing he says is capability. Sometimes you don't have enough to get where you're needing to go. So you need influence and impact in your life that Reeva and hopefully people like me and some other people can provide you to enhance and enlarge your capacity. And the final thing he talks about is confidence. We have failed. We have failed miserably at times. And sometimes we've got, Mark, what I call this flinch factor. It's just like we get to that point where we're excited and we want to run and dash into something, but we just remember our mind runs back to things we've tried before, we failed, and we've just lost confidence. So if you're listening to this podcast today, I want you to be of good cheer because there's an opportunity to take what you've heard today, apply it to your life, and gradually over time become more advanced in the way you think and the way you behave. Mark, thank you so much for this time today. I appreciate what you guys are doing at Reeva. I appreciate the testimony of your life and the willingness that you have to pour into others. And I'm looking forward to getting to know you guys better and to partnering together to co-labor to reach out and touch some of the needs of others.
Can't wait, man. I can't wait. Form good habits and become their slave.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for being with us today. I know this has enriched your life. Share this podcast with other people. I think that they're going to have an opportunity to learn as you've learned, and we can together advance our lives going forward. Thank you and have a great day.